สวัสดีครับ Good evening, everyone. My name is Ramasoon, and I'm currently working at Chulalongkorn University, and Dr. Chanipong has kindly invited me to teach here as a part-time teacher. And my project today is called Composition Project, named Ballades from the Thai literature for piano solo. And the idea of the project is that for me as a pianist and a piano teacher and a performer, and I have to ask myself that what is really the purpose and the mission of the performer. And I personally came up with the answer that the mission of the performer is to communicate the ideas of the composer to the audiences, and through the process of learning the piece that we can improve our technique, we can learn more about the interpretation of the piece, and eventually we can lift our spirit to the higher plane and searching for the deeper part of ourselves through the study of music. So as a performer, I always really enjoy an opportunity to work with a composer. And I would like to mention a few very important compositions in the past that show the collaboration between the performer and the composers. And we see in the photo is Samuel Barber, is one of the most prominent American composer, that when he was thinking of writing a sonata for piano, that he really wanted to make this piece a very important piece in piano literature, and he couldn't think of anyone to be the pianist to give a premier performance of this piece except Vladimir Horowitz, and Horowitz agreed to premiere this piece, and ever since it has become one of the most difficult and most challenging pieces in piano repertoire. And likewise for the orchestra part, that Sergei Kursevitsky at that time was a principal conductor of the Boston Symphony, and he commissioned Bela Bartok to write the piece for orchestra, and this is the beginning of the renowned concerto for orchestra that became a very important repertoire. And I think the Thailand Philharmonic has performed this before. It's a very difficult piece. And the idea of my project is that I would like to have original composition by Thai composers, and by original compositions, I mean that it's not a transcription, because even though the transcription for piano solo from Thai classical music has become really popular, and it is a very important part of Thai culture, but the goal of my project is to create the original composition, not just a transcription. And I'm asking the composer to use the Western technique to write it as a new music with a very challenging piano technique, but at the same time express Thai culture. So to be in accordance with the theme of this symposium, and I selected some very interesting piano piece from the Romantic period that is influenced by the literature. For example, the fantasy for piano by Robert Schumann called Kreisleriana is strongly influenced by the character Johannes Kreisler from E.T.A. Hoffmann, and the piano sonata by Franz Liszt, and the Dante sonata is influenced by Faust of Goethe and the Divine Comedy of Dante. Brahms' Four Ballades Opus 10 is influenced by the German writer Johann Gottfried Herder, and Chopin Four Ballade, which is the model of my project, is inspired by the Polish poem by Adam Mickiewicz. So to go a little bit faster so we can finish everything in 15 or 20 minutes, and I would like to mention that a little bit of the original ballad, that even though when we say ballad today, we would think of the popular music by English or American singers. But originally, the ballad is a very old term that used since the medieval time, that it is a form of the text and the music. And this is a characteristic of the ballad. That you can see the spelling, B-A-L-L-A-D, is ballad, is one of them. And the second one is the ballad with the E, is B-A-L-L-A-D-E, and it has a totally different meaning. And the first meaning is that one of the three form fixes, which is the form from the 14th and the 15th century French poetry. And the second meaning is German narrative poem, or the instrumental music that related to the narrative theme that usually mention about historical or medieval legend or supernatural, and usually it has a tragic feeling. And I personally think that this second meaning of the ballad is the forerunner of the Chopin ballad, but this is more of a personal interpretation, because some musicologists think that the Chopin ballad is come from the third type of ballad, is called ballata, which is the meaning to dance from the Latin word ballare, and it is a popular Italian musical and poetic form during the 13th to 15th century in polyphony. And it is very interesting and confusing that the ballata is not similar to the French ballad, but it's similar to another type of the form fixe, really. And musically, it's more similar to the early Italian madrigal. Anyway, I go a little bit faster. And the idea of this project is that I would like to perform the piano piece that can express Thai value, that also developing a model of a research for the performers. And recently I have so many friends and former students that study abroad, and when they have to play a piano recital, they're asking for a piano piece by Thai composer, and we realize that there are very limited repertoire in this section, and it would be really nice to have something that we can represent the Thai style, because if you go to a piano recital by young, talented American pianists, and they might include work by Gershwin or Balcom or Lieberman, and even composer from other Asian countries like the Japanese composer Takemitsu is already recognized as one of the international composers. But I'm sure there are some really good Thai composer, but the work written by Thai composer is not quite yet popular. So the goal of this project is to encourage more Thai composer to write original composition for piano, and the younger generation of Thai students that recently became more successful abroad can add these pieces into their program so they can represent Thailand in a deeper and a more comprehensive way in their performance. So I would like to mention one great artist, Ajahn Nat Yontararak. He's a very distinguished Thai pianist and recently turned into a composer. And Ajahn Nat is a piano teacher of Dr. Chanyapong, and also a teacher of me as well. So we knew him for a very long time. And this is a list of his composition. Actually, he wrote much more than this, but I selected some very important pieces by him. He wrote 3 piano sonata, and the first one is selecting the themes written by the former kings of Thailand. The sonata number 2 is homage to King Rama IX, and piano sonata number 3 he wrote in solo section, and each movement represent the part of Thailand. So he called it Siam sonata, or Siam is the older term of the Thailand. And another piece that should be mentioned here is his Grand Waltz Romantique that he dedicated to her Royal Highness Princess Kalayani Watana on her 84th birthday. And I'm sure it has a very special meaning here as well. Maybe Dr. Chanyapong can perform this piece here in his recital sometimes. Another distinguished Thai composer, Dr. Narong Prangchalerm, is probably one of the most famous Thai composer abroad, and he wrote so many important orchestral work performed worldwide, but he also wrote 4 piano pieces, and here is a list of his composition for piano solo. You can see that he wrote it in the span of so many years, and the most recent one, Page, in 2017, he just finished this year. Next. This is Dr. Chiradet, who is teaching here, and I talked to him many times. He refused me to give any information about himself and his work, but eventually I insist that I knew that he must have written the piano piece, and he finally gave me one piece for piano solo. May I ask Ajahn Chanyapong to pronounce this in German? I think it's...
Eine schöne Zeit war es.
And what is the meaning of this?
A nice time was it.
Okay.
But es in German also mean the note name E flat. So I'm not sure if there has some hidden meaning or not.
I see.
Es is a it in English.
Because I finally found him at 3 o'clock today, and he just told me that it's actually from the letter of Schoenberg to his friends that were the good friends before the war, but after the war they decided to stay on the opposite side, and this is a part of the letter that correspond between each other, so it has a very deep meaning. And Dr. Chiradet actually wrote the piece that in a more mathematical sense, that he transcribed the word into the music, so it's very interesting. I asked him that I want to see the score, and he refused to show me. So anyway, I would like to mention some colleagues that they are so dedicated in promoting the new music by living Thai composer. And this is Mr. Pana Yontararak, and you can recognize his last name that he is the son of Ajahn Nat Yontararak, and he has been performing, I think, most of his father's original composition that you can see in this photo. And another very active pianist who perform new music is Dr. Pawachai Suwankangka, who is currently teaching at the Srinakarinthara Virod University. And he has performed every solo piano pieces by Dr. Narong Prangchalerm. So, go back to my project. I have asked 4 composers that I really admire, and I had a chance to work with or know him personally, to write 4 solo piano pieces modeled after Chopin's 4 Ballades, and each of the piece that the composer is freely choose his favorite Thai literature to be the theme of the composition. And Dr. Narongrit, who is a Silapathorn artist and is a professor of composition at Chulalongkorn University, he's choosing Inau, which is a representative of the Indonesian culture. So as of this point, we haven't decided which ballad will be number 1, 2, 3, or 4. So I just represent them randomly. So I would like to start with Dr. Narongrit because he is the most respected and the most senior composer that I invited to be part of my project. And the second one is Dr. Denny Yuprasert, who is a renowned jazz pianist and composer. And currently he is the dean of the Rangsit Conservatory of Music, but he is taking 1 year sabbatical. He is currently living and teaching in Virginia in United States. And he promised me to finish his work before he leave, but he did not. So now he's in the US, and I have to contact him. So Ajahn Denny is choosing Phra Aphaimani, which is more like a fantasy literature by Sunthorn Phu. The third composer is Dr. Vibun Trakul Hun, who is also working at Rangsit University. He is associate professor of composition, and he's choosing Ramakien, which is another version of the Indian great literature Ramayana. And the last one is Dr. Saksi Wongtharadon, who is a very renowned jazz pianist who recently turned into orchestral composition, and he will write 1 piano piece for me. It's called Matana Pata of the Legend of the Rose. And here is the list of the author of the 4 literature that I'm choosing. No, actually they're choosing. So in now it's written by King Rama II, พระบาทสมเด็จพระพุทธเลิศล้านภาลัย พระอภัยมณี is written by สุนทรภู่ or พระสุนทรโวหาร Ramakian is the work by King Rama I, พระบาทสมเด็จพระพุทธเจ้าฟ้าจุฬาโลกมหาราช and Matana Patha is written by King Rama VI, พระบาทสมเด็จพระมงกุฎเกล้าเจ้าอยู่หัว And this is me performing a piano concerto by Dr. Narongrit many years ago, and I'm really admire him, and that's why he is one of the first person that I asked to be part of this project. And you can see a little green logo at the right hand side in RCT, which is the National Research Council of Thailand, who is generously support this project. And I'm very grateful and very proud that RCT is giving an annual grant to researcher in every field, like scientific and political and medical, and include art and music. And this year, NRCT is giving 2 scholarships to 2 pianists, and I'm very proud. And one is me, and another one is Dr. Chanyapong. So we will be working on our project this year, and hopefully by next year's symposium, we can present our project in the real actual performance, not just in the PowerPoint like today. So please come back next year. And this is a little bit of the photo that represent the literature that we are selecting. This is พระอภัยมณี and another hidden meaning of that. Normally in the legend or in literature, the main character will be the great warrior or the great king or the great fighters, but in พระอภัยมณี the main character, he is a musician, and the hidden meaning is that maybe his flute or his oboe is stronger than the sword or his fighting skill. And this is the statue of Sunthorn Poo. So this is a conclusion of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Do you have any question?
ครับ เชิญครับ
My question is just sort of comparing actually first presentation and the second one. In the first, we heard the vocal style was very evocative with the oud and the style of singing. So my question is towards the instrumental. What types of ornamentations evoke that very sort of classical Thai?
Because for me, Dr. Chanyapong's project is based on the original songs by Dr. Saisuri that is already existed, and it reflects her personal writing style. And I think she wrote that quite a few years back, right? So it's kind of like the project of Ajahn Chanyapong is the recreation of the existing works. And my project is that I was thinking about, for example, when Gershwin writing his composition for the first time, that the structure is Western classical music, but at the same time has something that represents his country. So I was thinking about the same way, but I give a free choice of the composer. So whether they want to present it in a more melodic and more accessible to the audience, or whether they want to make it really go to the extremity if they would like. But my personal preferences is that I would like it to be something that performers would like to play it again, and audiences would like to hear it again, because we don't want it to be some great composition that you perform it once or twice and nobody talk about it anymore. So we really want to be these pieces to be the permanent part of the piano literature, not only in Thailand, but maybe in the Southeast Asian region, and even maybe in the future some well-established foreign artists that would like to come to Thailand, and they might be want to show some respect to the local people, that maybe they can even add these pieces into their program. So my answer is that I have no fixed idea for any composer, but they are free to do whatever they like, but within the scope that it should be something intriguing.
And do you have any, I mean, from your experiences, specific musical for example, the Inao. Inao is based upon the Indonesian Panji.
Right,
cycle, or
right.
The Ramakian is the Ramayana.
Right.
And then you have all these pieces that have come obviously from the West. So I mean, Thailand is sort of this melting pot of cultural styles, and fascinating in that way. But everything ends up becoming very, very, very Thai. I mean, in a very general sense,
Right.
because Thai is sort of has different meanings in different places. In this sort of general shared Thai culture, going back to the musical examples, can you think of any ways that we can hear in the music, or we might be able to look for in the music, that we can say, oh, there's something that has become very sort of Thai in the piano playing style, for example?
I think for some, is a really good example because, of course, it's partly it's Thai, but partly it's in Indonesian. And when we bring this as the original idea of the composition, it will be partly Western as well. So whether a composer want to bring something directly as some tune that easily recognize that this is a Thai song, or maybe in case of Dr. Saksi, who is the last composer, he is more like a conceptual type that maybe he just borrows some intervals or some original idea and transform into something that almost like not recognizable easily. So it's up to the composer that whether they want to write something that you can instantly hear, oh, this is a melody from some of the local lullaby from Chiang Mai, or maybe something that you are not recognizable at all. But if you look at the program note, you see, oh, this is the 3 notes that you borrow from this specific song, and you maybe have some retrograde and some inversion. So it's really, I cannot answer this right now until I see the score, but hopefully it should be good. ครับเชิญครับ
Hi, very worthy project, and I'm intrigued. I'm interested in finding out what guided your decision in selecting the specific composers. I mean, if you select specific composers, you also decide not to select other composers, and the whole project will be determined actually by that decision process.
Right. Thank you very much. Really good question that I forgot to mention in my presentation, but I can clarify now. And first of all, there are composers that I have either I heard their pieces or I have performed their pieces, and I know them well enough that I can be part of the discussion during the working period, because I don't want to. Of course, there are so many great composers, and it doesn't mean these 4 people are the only good 4 composers in Thailand. This is not true. There are so many great composers, but I'm selecting 4 excellent composers that I know them personally. I have performed their work, and I think they are very open-minded enough that I can have a open discussion with them during the working process, that I can probably say something that, this is really a great idea, but pianistically it's not comfortable. So can we change? So in that sense, I'm choosing people that I feel like I can work effectively, and we can not only I just play what they have written, but I can be part of their creative process as well. So basically, I'm just choosing people that I know. Yeah, sure.
And your role is, your input is as a performer of those pieces. I mean, why will a composer allow anybody to tell them?
Oh, because I commissioned them to compose the piece and in a very small way, I want these 4 pieces to reflect my personalities, and I asked them personally to write something that fit my hands, that I feel comfortable to play, because there are certain technique that I can play quite naturally, and there are certain things that I don't feel comfortable, and this is part of discussion, because eventually I will give a world premiere performance of these 4 pieces, and I want to give a really good performance. So I think it's really important that they know my strengths and my weaknesses, and they can write a piece that fit my playing style. Does that answer your question? So
It's a very intriguing
okay.
process of music production.
Okay. ครับเชิญครับ
Yeah, to follow up composer be then? Would it be, who would you title as name as a composer then?
Of course, the composers. My name will not be mentioned in any part except the performer part, but I will be part of the writing process. That maybe after 1 or 2 months, they can show me some sketches, and I can maybe play for them, and we can exchange some idea. So it doesn't mean that I'm writing anything, but I will be following on what they have written so far.
Do you see yourself as a patron then?
Not really. I think I'm just very fortunate that I received a grant from the government that I can support new music, because I personally, when I was a student, I never played anything after Debussy. I really like the classical and romantic and maybe early parts of the 20th century. But since I start working, I feel I have been really fortunate to give a world premiere performance of many composers and get to know them personally. And I feel like they need more support. And of course, everyone has a job and they're willing to write for the sake of expressing themselves. But at the same time, I think they put in a lot of effort, and I want to give them a really reasonable return, and at the same time have a platform that I can print the score, I can make a CD recording, and maybe when I invited to play at some music festival abroad, that I can, instead of just playing the normal classical repertoire, that I can add these pieces into my program.
It's a very good point that when we work with the composer, which himself, for instance, when I work with Ajahn Sai Suri, for instance, that piece which I perform for you, she has very almost exact idea how she want, and it's very interesting to work with the composer so that we can get the information. And about your comment, I would like to say that about the like piano piece or other instrumental piece from Thai composers, sometimes we can hear the element from Thai instrument or the pentatonic, like maybe Thai xylophone, da 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 da. It can be used for piano and also for the singing style. Like the ornament will be not like a modern ta-da-dum, because we don't have a semitone, but if we a whole tone or the third ta-da-dum, ta-da-dum, ta-da-da-da-dum, like something like, but never like, because we don't have a dissonance in the Thai scale. Yeah. So thank you very much, Ajahn Ramasoon, for a nice presentation.